Hey, it's Liz. Um, Here I am. And I want to talk about something again, a lot of my videos lately, it's like this is stuff I've been thinking about, but lately I've actually had the time to make videos. Right now my family is out of town, and it's been a really rough winter, but um my husband is very kind and has made an effort to give me more alone time, which definitely helps somewhat. So, anyway, what I want to talk about is this sort of introvert extrovert thing with respect to autism, because it's something that I see a lot um, in the autism community. A lot of like memes about introverts and stuff, and a lot of kind of equating autism with introversion. And I understand why that happens, but I kind of disagree with it, because I'm an extrovert. So, how does that work? Okay. So, for starters, I think there's a couple of different things that get called being an introvert that are not the same thing. They're not mutually exclusive, but they're not really the same thing. So, one of them is social anxiety. Social anxiety is pretty common among the people that I know. It's pretty common among neurodivergent people in a general sense, whether it's like ADHD or different kinds of things that aren't necessarily like considered autism spectrum. Although, like, there's a lot of like complex overlap and connections between all those things, but whatever. And I don't have that. I don't have social anxiety. I think, and I'm kind of going out on a limb here, so I'm very curious what other autistic adults have to say about this. But for me, what was I going to say? Social anxiety. Um, oh man, I really just lost my train of thought. Maybe I'll edit this. Um, yeah, I don't have social anxiety. Um, I Oh yeah, I know what I was gonna say. So I do experience like definitely some difficulty in social situations. I'm often it depends on the specifics of the social situation. It depends on who these people are and like what the context is and stuff. If I'm with a bunch of like very sort of normal people, normative, very like very normative people who are very sort of enmeshed in mainstream culture and society, I just feel out of place, and I don't know how to. It becomes clear that I'm missing social cues, or that I like don't understand how to play a role in the group the way I'm expected to, and that may or may not go well, because sometimes people will find that kind of charming or be like, oh, that's so interesting that you're like different or whatever. um but really, I whether it's positive or negative response that I get, it's still kind of stressful. It doesn't flow. I don't feel relaxed about it. um but it's not something that causes me to sort of feel paralyzed. It's not an experience I hate. It's kind of an experience I'm like, it just is what it is. And a lot of times when I'm in a situation like that, like at the most awkward possible kind of social setting of people that I don't know at all, that are very alien to me, that I like clearly don't know how to act, um I kind of just like, I don't know, I kind of just absorb myself in the surroundings and watch everybody, and sort of take pleasure in the awkwardness. I just kind of revel in it. I live for the experience. I live in the moment. It is what it is. I'll come off how I come off. I mean, it can definitely take something out of me if I'm already. It takes energy, you know? I think for anybody, it takes some energy to like engage socially. And it also does take more energy for me to engage socially, I think, than most people. But that said, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm having a bad time, even if it's not going well. Whereas I think for a lot of autistic people, there's kind of a feedback loop where it's like they have a lot of these painful, awkward experiences trying to be social, and maybe their particular family or peer group that they're exposed to when they're young is like just particularly grating or vicious or whatever. And they develop some kind of like automatic kind of reflex against these experiences. Like whereas like I didn't have a lot of really bad experiences. You know, my family is kind of has an unconventional flair. My peers growing up, I mean, they didn't always like me, and sometimes they thought I was weird, but it wasn't like a huge deal. Like, I was in like a bullying situation in middle school with this one girl, but you know, it's not like my social experience mostly was like that traumatizing. It was just sort of like, it just was awkward a lot. And so, and maybe part of it's just my personality. I've always been kind of I tend to have an ability to cultivate inner peace, and I don't have a tendency to take things super personally or be I don't know. It's just like social stuff isn't a trigger for anxiety for me. You know, I guess. And I can see how it would be for a lot of other autistic people. It just isn't for me. So I think that's a lot of why a lot of autistics identify as introverts, because if you have social anxiety, like going out and being social seems just sort of repugnant. So of course you're going to want to not do that. But I don't think that's really what being an introvert is. Like, social anxiety is something too that I think you can work through, and you know, with various therapies, like it's something about yourself that you can actually change. So I don't think that that's like, to me, in this introvert extrovert thing, although I think it's just generally really overplayed to the extent that it is a thing, I think it's a more deeply rooted personality thing. I think introverts are specifically attracted to spending time alone. And don't get me wrong, I like spending time alone too. That's why it's so nice that my family's out of town. Helps me recharge, like, for sure. I think everybody needs that. I don't think that's specific to introverts. But I guess the difference is that for me, I also know that I really need social engagement. That, like, if I'm not already really like on the edge of burnout, then going out to a party, especially a party of people that I like, is great. And it's something that actually invigorates me and gives me energy that I can put back into the rest of my life. It inspires me. It makes me animated in a way that I'm like never animated in these videos because I'm always here alone. Like, I can't even really show, I don't even think these videos really show my personality, because my personality really doesn't come out fully until I'm hanging out with somebody that I like. So that's really important for me to have that contact. Otherwise, I just start to feel like a zombie. And it's not that I don't like doing things alone, But honestly, even a lot of my projects that I wind up doing alone, like you know, my little herbalism craft projects or my pickling or stuff, is more fun to me if I'm doing it with a friend. Watching a movie or TV show is more fun to me when I'm doing it with a friend. And again, I still have those times where I really need to just be alone because I've run out of energy for being social. But I need both. And I don't think I honestly, this is sort of silly idea of like ambivert, or like, that's supposed to be like a cross between extrovert, introvert, which like I don't I don't really think that's it, because again, I mean, and even the most extroverted extrovert still needs alone time. That's just part of like being human, I think, is needing to, have time where you have less sensory input. And I may need that in a different way than other people because of being autistic. But I don't think that makes me any less of an extrovert. Like, I really shine when I am doing things for people and with people. Like, that's really where I like belong, I feel like. So that's one thing that is also really challenging about being a parent of a young child. It's very socially isolating. It's physically and psychologically hard to get around with a toddler. And then I'm also constrained to things that are appropriate for toddlers, things that I can really bring her to. And then if I'm trying to socialize with somebody, I'm going to be interrupted every 2 seconds by a toddler. So it's like, it doesn't work very well. And that is a mental health challenge for me just as much as getting sufficient alone time is. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was another reason that I was thinking that autistics I think it's those two. It's like the social anxiety and the need to recharge. But I don't think those things make you introverts. I think an introvert is somebody who is just on a much deeper personality level oriented toward being alone. I don't know how else to put it. I think it is a thing, but the thing about autism is that it's not a personality, and I guess that's what bothers me about this whole like association. I feel like it's very lazy because autism is not a personality. Someone on the spectrum can have any kind of personality. It's just going to have but autism is going to be part of it. Autism is the canvas upon which this personality exists, but like autism by itself is not a personality. And I think that stereotyping way of thinking about people with autism winds up being really harmful, especially to autistic adults, especially to autistic people who are female, who are not like really specifically white cis male nerds, like with nerdy looking clothes. And not that there's anything wrong with that, I love guys like that, but like but there's so much more, right? Like, and I think people are very quick to write you off if you just don't totally conform to that stereotype. And there's also a very specific personality they have in mind. They have, this guy who like speaks in monotone and, has interests that are so restricted that they can't talk about anything else. And, they don't know how to flirt with anybody, and they don't have a sexuality, and they don't, and it's like that, a lot of that stuff isn't even fair to those kinds of guys, because I don't think anybody perfectly fits that, because it's a made up idea of what autistic people are supposed to be. So yeah, I really would like to see a bit more broadening on this horizon. And I'm also just really sick of extrovert introvert memes. There's nothing wrong with being an extrovert. it it doesn't mean you're just like loud and crass and don't care about anybody. And there's nothing wrong with being an introvert either, but it's not the same as having social anxiety or needing recharge time, which, like I said, everyone needs. Autistic people need more. Okay, I feel like this is kind of a terrible video, but I'm probably gonna post it anyway. Please, if you enjoyed this video, despite the fact that I refuse to edit it, please give me a like, subscribe, share, and if you disagree with me, which you probably do, just give me a comment. Okay, bye.